Let's go to Auburn, since we were just talking to Peter about this, Amal. 5-7 last year, missed out on a bowl. I think that's the first time they missed a bowl since 2012. Here comes Hugh Freeze, who, remember, years at Ole Miss, he beat Bama twice in big spots. I talked about it a little bit earlier, 8 wins or more in all 4 seasons at Liberty. Auburn comes into the year, regular season win total over at DraftKings, 6.5. The under, you got to pay big time juice, so it's headed to 6 at -140. They're 35-1 in the SEC West. They've got 7 transfers that could start on offense. That just gives you an idea. I'll set you up there, but there's a lot of turnover. The 2 coaches I want to focus on, Hugh Freeze and also Philip Montgomery. He's the old Tulsa coach who knows offense. These 2 know offense. They're going to play fast. It's going to be exciting offensively on the Plains.
Hey, you're absolutely right about that. Peyton Thorne, if that name sounds familiar, comes in from Michigan State. Looks like he will potentially be the starting quarterback there. This is a team that it's going to be interesting. Robbie Ashford is the backup. I like Ashford's mobility and what he can give you in certain situations, Patrick, but he's a guy in terms of Thorne to pay attention to. I think simply because of his accuracy, he'll probably get the nod there. Then you go to the wide receiver. You bring in Jair Shorter from North Texas. And then, of course, this is a team that's going to need some consistency that you lose Tank Bigsby in that backfield. They're bringing another player, Shane Hooks, from Jackson State in Ohio. Not necessarily household names for people, but the one thing we've seen with Hugh Freeze throughout his career, whether at Lambuth, whether at Arkansas for a season, Ole Miss, Liberty, he's had 1 losing season in his entire collegiate career. He was 5-7 in his last year at Ole Miss. But I think things can get turned around very, very quickly. You mentioned Montgomery. Did a nice job at Tulsa. People would sit there and say, well, what did he win? The reality of it is Tulsa's a tough place to recruit to because you got guys going to the Big 12. You got some other schools that Texas guys spread out to. So a little bit of a challenge there. But we know one thing. Hugh Freeze can recruit. And he can bring guys in, and they're going to have an exciting offense, and they're going to be challenging. We saw what they were able to do at Liberty. I think that only continues. And I'll tell you what, you can make the argument for certain leagues, the Big Ten East, whatever other division you want to make the argument for. The SEC West has Alabama, LSU. You've got Jimbo down in College Station. And now you bring in Hugh Freeze along with Sam Pittman at Arkansas. Man, this is a competitive league. Patrick, I tend to agree with Peter and you in terms of the 6.5. Might seem a little bit optimistic for this team, but I think long-term, this is a great hire for this team, and they are going to challenge Alabama in about a year or 2.
We can delve into the schedule. Let's bring the 3 of us up here. Let's talk about the offense. You mentioned Robbie Ashford, who started 9 games for him last year there at Auburn. Peyton Thorne, who he's fine. I mean, he throws a good deep ball. Yeah. He can run a little bit. He's just fine. I watched him plenty at Michigan State. He's good. He's got a very good arm. He can throw a good deep ball. Coming out of spring, it does appear that Ashford had the edge, but my assumption is all along they wanted Thorne to start, so that's a little dicey. Johnson and Moore, 2 very good wide receivers return. They got 3 from the portal. Jarquez Hunter is a good running back. The problem on offense is a complete overhaul of the offensive front. But again, you mentioned Montgomery and Freeze. That offense is going to be very, very good. Ron Roberts comes over, big guy to run the defense. He ran Aranda's defense over at Baylor the last 2 years. Up front, they got a big-time transfer in Justin Rogers from Kentucky, who's a stud, will anchor that defense. Cam Riley, a very good linebacker. The secondary is their strength. They essentially return everybody. So Auburn set up okay. You know, again, 6.5 regular season win total. Can they get to 7? We'll pour through the schedule, but your overall take here, Dustin.
Well, Ron Roberts is a guy I know very well because he coached at Division II Delta State back in the early 2000s, and he had a bunch of dominant defenses in the Gulf South Conference, led by All-American linebacker Michael Eubanks. This guy is a psycho. His eyes are always bulging out of his face. He's the classic defensive coordinator, going to fit in great here on a Hugh Freeze staff that is fascinating to watch because I don't care who the players are. I firmly believe Hugh Freeze is capable of taking any Division I FBS caliber players on the offensive side of the ball and getting the most out of them. He got the most out of Ball Wallace. He got the most out of Malik Willis, who people are wondering if he's going to stick around in the NFL. Like, think about that. He is an offensive genius. He has tons of guys coming in who are going to lift up the talent level that he walked into at Auburn. I think they're an interesting team to watch in year 1 because I just believe that the way he speaks and coaches and teaches that they're immediately going to hit the ground running offensively.
Big massage guy.
Among other
here's
things.
the thing about Hugh Freeze and Auburn. There is it's impossible to start better than 3-3. So let's go through it. They open up at UMass, should be a win. They go to Cal. You hope it's a win if you're Auburn. Then Samford is a win. So let's just say they start 3-0. Mm-hmm. They then will proceed to lose 3 in a row. A&M, Georgia, and LSU.
You're sure they're losing to A&M?
What's that?
Are you sure they're losing to A&M?
They're going to College Station. They're going to A&M.
I just want to interject one thing on the Georgia game.
But you're right, maybe not.
I think they're going to beat A&M, but I'm not saying they're going to beat Georgia. But I think it'll be a game where you look at taking the points because they'll get a large number. It's a huge rivalry game. That's the only thing I'll say in reference to that. They might cover the spread. They're not going to win the game.
It's just once they get to conference play, it's just so brutal. A&M, Georgia, LSU, Ole Miss, Mississippi State. Crossover with the East, they get Vandy, which ain't bad, but then Arkansas, and then they close out New Mexico State and Alabama. Good luck with that.
And yeah, they get to come up for air.
Brutal run.
They come up for air, then they have Arkansas. They come up for air again. They finish with Alabama.
It's brutal.
Guys, this under 6.5 is a good bet. The number should have been 6. How do they ever get to 7 wins to beat you on this prop? Real quickly, Alabama. You mentioned Georgia, LSU, and A&M losses. I think they lose at Jordan-Hare to Ole Miss. I think they lose in Fayetteville. That's 5 losses right there.
Is that as brutal of a 4-in-a-row stretch as there's going to be in college football this year? At A&M versus number 1 Georgia, at LSU, then versus Ole Miss?
Well, they do have a bye before the LSU game.
Okay.
I mean, Mississippi State, Vandy's a little bit of a respite, and then you go Arkansas, New Mexico State, okay, but then you close Alabama. Yeah, it's just brutal. It's brutal. It's an insane league. The division is wild, but I think he's going to do well there. 6.5. I mentioned it's trending to 6 because if you want to bet the under 6.5 over at DraftKings, you got to lay $1.40 to win $1. 6 wins and a bowl appearance would be a good year in year 1. I'm sorry. It's just a bunch of transfers, specifically 7 potentially playing and starting on offense. This is because of the portal. The roster should be improved them all, but they're not quite there.
No, you mentioned the other thing that concerns me when you look at this defensive line. Justin Rogers comes in a transfer there along the defensive front. He comes in from Kentucky, which is not bad, an SEC player there. But, Jalen McLeod comes in as well, a transfer, but from App State. We're used to, when you think of Auburn, those hogs that they got up front on that defensive front 4, they just have been lacking those type of tackles that they've had in the past that have really been run stoppers and run stuffers that make a huge difference. We saw at Penn State last year just absolutely just destroy this team fairly comfortably. Guys, 5 and 7 seems like the number to me. If things break well, whether it's against Ole Miss or Mississippi State, they get to 6 wins. But I'm telling you, Alabama, Arkansas, Georgia, LSU, and A&M, those are 5 losses right there.
Under. Big guy, what are you at right now as far as Auburn?
Alabama, Arkansas, do you sure miss your ma and pa? It's a song. I actually lean over. I think they're going to figure things out towards the end of the year, and they're going to be a really dynamic offense.
You think they're going 7-5?
You got them winning at A&M, correct?
Have them winning at A&M. Have them beating Ole Miss.
You didn't listen to Peter Sideburns when he said A&M could potentially win the SEC West?
Sure. Jimbo Fisher seems like a stable person.
He's got a natty. A lot of guys don't.
Jameis won the natty.
Go to VSiN.com/subscribe to become a VSiN Pro subscriber today.